Shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it bala bala, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Oh, Arsenal. Back to life, back to reality. Arsenal 1, Manchester City 3. Clean, deserved victory from Pep Guardiola's side. Clean. Look, Arsenal, you can't play a game of this magnitude and have one shot on target for 90 minutes and expect to get something out of the game. Arsenal were poor. And to be frank, Arsenal have been poor for the last, 3-4 games. Since they lost that FA Cup game against Manchester City, they've just not looked like the Arsenal we saw in the first half of the season. And you could tell a problem was slowly brewing. A problem in terms of mental, physical fatigue, in terms of a lack of options. And when that happens, you see, when you are battling where the Premier League has reached, you need strength in depth and you need quality all round. And you need to be able to call on that quality almost every time. Look, if you look at the critical seasons that the season Liverpool won the league, with 1 or 2 injuries to Manchester City, they didn't have, in fact, a certain department, in fact, I think it was the defense. It completely derailed their season. The following season also, when Liverpool lost the lead to Manchester City, in fact, the season that Liverpool struggled, and I think they used the last day to make the top 4. Van Dijk gets injured, they have a number of injuries to their midfield, and all of a sudden their season is derailed. Look, you need strength in depth, and you need that, should I say, luck, when you have that strength in there to hope that your key players stay fit through and through. And in saying that, I'm not saying that Arsenal lost because of the absence of Partey, because he's clearly the key player that was absent. I'm just saying this period that we are seeing, I'm not pinning it down to this particular game, but this period of difficulty that we are seeing from Arsenal, I feel it's down to that. And when this is a serious test of their mentality, because if we don't take care, it's just going to keep going down. For me, they've outperformed themselves at this point of the season. Nobody expected them to reach 50 points after the first half of the season. It's insane. If you look at the quality of players that they have, the caliber of their manager, you look at the strength and depth in their squad, they should not have been making 50 points at the halfway point. So I think they've overachieved at that point. But when you see that things are going your way, you need to capitalize on it. And in as much as I thought Arsenal had a very good January transfer window, I just feel like on the whole, on hindsight, when you look at their squad at the start of the season, it just wasn't a squad that was ready to challenge for the title. So they've done well. I'm not saying that the title challenge is over, but this is what we expected. We expected them to hit a bump, slump a little, Manchester City to come in and take what was due them. And when it comes to Man City, look, they've been in this situation over and over and over and over again. And that's why most people take them to come back, even when they were 8 points down, come back and come and regain the lead. Because they know what it means to challenge for a title. They know how to manage their emotions. They know how to manage games. They understand this title race and the business of the title race. Arsenal haven't. So Arsenal are at the top. You face an Everton, yes, it doesn't go well. If you watch the last 10-15 minutes of the Brentford game, even when Arsenal took the lead, they seemed very nervous. And you could just tell that an equalizer was coming. Yes, it didn't come through the fairest of means, but an equalizer is an equalizer. Today's penalty Arsenal got, for me, wasn't a penalty. Some of these things, you can say they balance out, but I'm just call for fairness. But that's just by the way. But in today's game in particular, look, I was single out first of all Xhaka. I was so disappointed. If anybody should have had a poor game, it should not have been Granit Xhaka. It could have been at any department of the pitch or any department of the pitch, but not the midfield. When you have Jorginho coming in for Partey, having his first start for the club, coming the biggest game of the season so far against Manchester City, you, the guy who has been playing more regularly, he actually needs you to help him. Jorginho was absolutely brilliant today. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. The only thing was that Xhaka wasn't able to live up. If Xhaka had given a 7/10, I don't think this game would have been won as easily as Manchester City won it. Because yes, when you look back on the game, this was probably a very easy game for Manchester City. They managed the game perfectly. They allowed Arsenal to have the ball, but when Man City had the ball, they were very decisive in what they did. And that was also a result of, I think, Arsenal losing the midfield to Manchester City. City had control of, in terms of decision making, if that makes sense. When they picked up the ball, they had enough room to be able to execute the damage they wanted to do in the smallest amount of time. And that's what went against Arsenal. Look, it's sad that this is happening from an Arsenal point of view, but it is not unexpected at all. It is not unexpected at all. This Arsenal team just doesn't have enough to be able to go the full length of 38 games, and that is what we predicted from the start. That is what we said in the middle. Yes, also one or two signings. It looked like if Manchester City weren't consistent, Arsenal could continue, but we always knew that this slump, we hit this slump. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. But it is how you're able to manage yourselves out of that period that shows the elite teams from the rest. And from Arsenal, they seem to be struggling. They really seem to be struggling. I was asking myself before the game, if this was a Liverpool who had gone through or was in a title race at the top of the league facing Manchester City at home in this sort of game, you would have expected Liverpool to put all the poor form behind them and live up to the expectation. But Arsenal just haven't handled this situation enough. In this group of, in fact, this squad, the manager, they've not seen these things before. And when I say they've not seen these things, yes, Arteta has seen it as an assistant, but he hasn't seen it as the main man in charge. So you expect some of these things to happen. You don't expect to get it right in your first title race, no. And in saying this, I'm not saying the title race is over. I'm just saying that what we predicted at the start is panning out. And I'll be very surprised if Manchester City lets this thing slip. Yeah, Arsenal has a game in hand, but even that, I can bet you, but by the time Arsenal plays that game in hand, even if they win, they will not even come on top. The gap will be increased. That's just really how I feel at this point in time. And Arsenal need to be very patient. They need to be very patient. They just need to take the pressure off them. Just tell yourself that, look, at the start, nobody expected us to win. There's no real pressure to win every single game. And I think that would be a blessing in disguise. If you're able to take the pressure off you, like how they were playing in the beginning of the season, they knew that nobody expected them to, so they would just mind their business, winning. Now you've got to the top and people are looking at a title race, they are beginning to crumble because the pressure to win and the pressure to succeed is up there. But when you're able to take that pressure off you, I think that is what will help. I feel Arteta just needs to tell his guys that, look, the title race, yes, we've done well, but up to this point, Manchester City have come, they are doing their thing. Let's just relax. Let's just focus on that game. Similar to what Liverpool did last season. At a point, I think Man City were 13 or 12 points ahead. Liverpool were just minding their business in second place, game by game. Before they realized on the last day, they actually had a chance of winning the league. They were just 1 point. They finished the league just 1 point behind Manchester City. So it's possible. It's actually possible to hunt down Man City. But to be able to do that, up here, you look, for a team that is not used to this sort of situation, I feel the best possible way is just to take pressure off yourself. Tell your players, let everybody understand that, okay, fine, our season, we've overachieved this season. We expected to finish in the top 4. As we stand, it looks like we're almost there. Let's just concentrate on that. And let's concentrate on putting as much pressure on Man City as possible. Not necessarily trying to overtake them and putting the pressure that we have to win the league. And if Arsenal are able to manage that well, I think they can sustain this title race for as long as possible. And maybe, you never know, about 4 or 5 games to the end of the season, if you're a couple of points behind Man City, pressure may be on Manchester City, because we've actually seen them crumble in situations like that. Not necessarily crumble and then lose the title, but they've slipped up getting to the end of the season in order to bring back a title race. We saw that last season with Liverpool. We've seen that quite a number of times. So it is possible. All I'm saying is that, look, this game was just a huge indication of the levels of the two teams and why everybody and most people expected Manchester City to win the league and win it quite easily, even when Arsenal were dominating. Arsenal are just not there in terms of competing for a title. As it stands in the Premier League, aside Manchester City, nobody can really give them a quality title chase. And I feel like from now, it's Manchester City's to lose. But sorry, Arsenal, but it is what it is. It is what it is.